Hi guys, these are the solution videos for topic 4 practice. I know I'm not in today, so I made these solution videos so I could explain them as instead of just seeing what the answers were. So if we look at that first one, I noticed right away that we have a negative exponent in the numerator. So that's going to need to move to the denominator so it become positive. So I'll go ahead and write my skeleton. I'm not going to worry about that -1 on the outside until the very end. So I'm going to move that y to, I'm going to reduce 5 over 15. That's going to give me 1/3. Next, I've got my x squared over x. I'm going to use my division rule. 2 minus 1 is 1, so I have x to the first power in the numerator. After that, I'm going to move my y to the 7 in the denominator next to the y to the third that's already there. And last but not least, I have z to the third over z squared. 3 minus 2 is 1, so I have z to the first in the numerator. The only other thing I need to do before I can take it to the negative first power is combine that y to the third and y to the 7th. Alright, so that's going to give me 3 multiplication rule. Y to the 10th, 3 plus 7 is 10. Now that's all to the negative first power, and all the negative first power really means is that we need to flip what's inside. So we're going to flip to get rid of the negative. So let's flip it, and it becomes positive first power on the outside. So that means 3y to the 10th is in the numerator, and then xz is in the denominator. Now anything to the first power is just itself, so we don't need that parentheses first power. That's our answer. Number 2, we've got one negative exponent q to the 6. Now it's not a fraction, but we're going to make it one by putting it over 1. Only the q to the negative 6 is moving. And it's unhappy in the numerator, it's negative in the numerator, so it's going to become positive q to the 6 in the denominator. Now nothing else moves because they were positive exponents and there's no division rules to do since we have all different variables. Alright, number 3, we've got 2 negative exponents this time, so we're going to move them to the denominator. We've got 9 is the only thing left in the numerator. The coefficient does not move with the exponent. And then we got w to the 8th is already there. W to the negative third will bump down and become positive third. K to the negative 4th will bump down and become k to the positive 4th power. The only thing left to do before we square the numerator and square the denominator is to combine those w's. It's multiplication, so we can add our exponents to get 9 over w to the 11th, and the k to the 4th is still there. Now we can take both the numerator and denominator to the second power. 9 to the 2nd is 81. And our power to a power rule says multiply our exponents. 11 times 2 is 22, and 4 times 2 is 8. Dunsky. All right, looking at number 4, anything to the 0 power we can actually cross out and pretend it wasn't there. So it's just gone. And the only thing left to do is move that b to the negative third to the other side, the numerator, and become b to the positive third. So right now I've got b to the 4th, and b to the third in the numerator. Everything left the denominator, so it's actually no longer a fraction. Here's our multiplication rule. B to the 4th times b to the third means I add 4 plus 3 and get b to the 7th. So that is the answer, number 4. Let's look at the bottom numbers. So with number 5, we've got everything inside that numerator. We got a lot going on, so what I'm going to do is move any of my negative exponents. So we got y to the negative 7, don't want that. We want positive 7 in the denominator. Alright, so looking at what we have are positive exponents. I kept them all where they were, and then I move y to the 7th to the denominator, and it becomes y to the positive 7th power. So I didn't do any of my exponent rules just yet. I kept the positive exponents and moved the negative. Now I'm going to apply my rules inside the parentheses. All right, 3 over 12. That's going to reduce to 1 over 4. We have x squared over x. Division rule says subtract our exponents. 2 minus 1 is 1, so we get x to the first in the numerator. We've got z to the third over z squared. Same thing. 3 minus 2 is 1. Z to the first in the numerator. And then last we have a y to the third in the bottom and a y to the 7. So because they're being multiplied together, we add our exponents to get y to the 10th. Alright, so now we've simplified everything inside. What we're going to do is change it to a positive 2 on the outside, take care of the negative part of that exponent, and just flip everything we see inside those parentheses. So 4y to the 10th goes to the numerator, and xz goes to the denominator. So all we did was flip what was inside and change it to a positive 2 on the outside instead of negative 2. The only thing left to do is square the numerator and square the denominator. 4 squared is 16. Y to the 10th to the second, power to a power, we multiply and get y to the 20. Then x to the first to the second is x to the second. Same thing with z. Z is to the first power, then to the second. 1 times 2 is 2. Boom, done. Number 6 is kind of like number 2, where it's not a fraction, but we're going to make it one by putting it over 1, so our negative exponents have somewhere to go. So the p and the q are both to the negative exponents, so those two are going to move. The r is going to stay where it is because it's positive. So our final answer, we have r squared in the top, and then we move p to the negative second, becomes p to the positive second, but in the bottom, and then q to the negative 9 becomes q to the positive 9 just in the bottom, and we're done after that. 7, quickest one on the page. Anything to the 0 power is 1. Final problem, number 8. First, we'll start by moving our negative exponents. Also, if we have anything to the 0 power, cross it out and pretend like it wasn't there to begin with. All right, I'm going to keep everything that's a coefficient or a positive exponent. So the b squared stays in the numerator, the a third c to 5 stays in the denominator, but I'm going to switch. C to the negative 12 is going to bump down and become c to the positive 12, and then b to the negative 9 was in the denominator, but it was unhappy, so it's moving to the numerator to become b to the positive 9. Now let's do our subtraction rule, division rule. 16 over 2 reduces to 8 over 1, or just 8. It just has to be in the numerator. Then I look at my b's. They're being multiplied, so I add them. 2 plus 9 is 11, so I get b to the 11th power. Next, I have my c's being multiplied, so I add them. 5 plus 12 is 17. And then the a to the third, there's no other a's, so it just stays a to the third in the denominator. Hopefully this video solution helped. Feel free to rewind it and pause it as needed.